Hello friends, happy Tuesday. Hope your day is going great so far. All right, let's jump right into the story. If you're new to my channel, we are going through the Jesus Storybook Bible. Yes, this is a children's book / Bible. And this book has been so amazing for me to read. Just going back to the basics, going back to just the stories. If you're like me, I grew up in church and I know all of these Bible stories. But going back and rereading them in a way where you can see how they point to Jesus, the Messiah, and this amazing return of the prince to come rescue his people, and just seeing honestly that theme was there all along, but I never really quite saw it or was able to pull it out from these stories. But the author Sally Lloyd-Jones has done a great job in doing that in each of these stories. So it's been really amazing for me to read it to my kids, and just point them to Christ in all these stories that they already know because they grew up in church. But that's the main thing that we are able to pull out from all of these amazing Bible stories. So today we're going to talk about Moses and the great escape from Egypt. And it is a summary from Exodus 3 all the way to 13. She doesn't go into all the details, which I think it's okay. It's more of like stepping back and looking at the overall story and seeing how Jesus pops out of that, okay? So it's just a summary of Exodus 3 all the way through chapter 13. And the title for this story is called God to the Rescue. Okay, so we left off yesterday, Joseph and his brothers. Remember, he became second in command in Egypt and he was able to save his brothers and reconcile with them. So that's where we're going to pick up. It says, Joseph and his brothers grew old and died, but their children's children stayed on in Egypt, where they became a very large family. And to say it's a large family, it's an understatement because they were so many. I think they even grew to be bigger or larger than the Egyptians, okay? Later on, a new king began to rule. But this Pharaoh didn't remember Joseph, and he didn't like God's people. He made them into his slaves and beat them and made them work harder and harder because they were growing and multiplying so fast. God was blessing them. And they were growing, and they were afraid that they one day would take over Egypt. So he's like, let me suppress them. Let me make them into slaves. God's people cried out to God to rescue them, and God heard them. He remembered his promise to Abraham. He would look after his people. He would find a way to set them free. One day, Moses, right, was looking after sheep, and this is obviously a lot because a lot had to happen for Moses. Where we pick up his life, where we start his life here, a lot more had happened before, but obviously she doesn't go through it. But one day Moses was looking after sheep when something caught his eye. A bush was behaving very oddly. It was flickering with flames, but its leaves weren't burning up. So he saw this tree and it was on fire, but it wasn't being consumed. It was just sitting there. He took a closer look. Moses, boomed a big voice. Moses leaped back. The bush was talking to him. I have heard my people's cries, God said. I have seen their tears, so I have come down to rescue them. Go to Pharaoh and tell him to let my people go free. Moses was afraid, but God said, I will be with you. So this is Moses over here. And this is a bush that was on fire, but it wasn't being consumed. And this is his sheep running away. All right. So Moses went to Pharaoh. Pharaoh, Moses began. God says, God, said Pharaoh, never heard of him. Moses kept going. God says, let his people go free. If you guys can hear Lukey in the background, he's counting. Lukey. Sorry, God says, let his people go free. Why should I? Pharaoh said. Don't want to. Won't, he said. He didn't. So God gave Pharaoh 10 warnings. God is good to even give warnings. Okay? And we'll see now that I feel like he did this to show his power to Pharaoh and to the people. So he gave him warnings called plagues. First, God turned the river Nile into blood. No one could drink the water, but still Pharaoh would not let them go. So God made frogs come hopping, leaping, and jumping. In your bed, frogs. In your hair, frogs. In your soup, frogs. All over, everywhere, frogs. Make them go away, Pharaoh screamed. Then your people can go. So God took the frogs away. But Pharaoh changed his mind. You can't go, he said. Then God sent zillions of gnats. They're like little flies. But still Pharaoh said no. So then God sent swarms of flies. Flies buzzing in your eyes, flies. After that, sickness and horrible boils and huge hailstones and a storm of locusts. Then darkness when it should have been day, until it seemed that the whole world, creation, and everything was coming undone, falling back into darkness and emptiness and nothingness. So here we have this poor person sleeping and he has frogs everywhere. You have, I think this is a locust, and this is, what is this? Oh, this is Pharaoh still saying no. But each time Pharaoh said, make it stop, and then I'll let them go. And each time when God made it stop, Pharaoh changed his mind and said, actually, no, you can't go. Finally, Moses warned Pharaoh, obey God or he will have to send the worst thing of all. And Pharaoh just laughed. You see how hardened his heart is, all right? He believed God existed, obviously, because he saw all of these warnings, but his heart was still hardened that he didn't want to believe in God. Even if he says the worst thing's going to happen. So those of us who don't, or those people who deny God to the end, it's not because there was no warning, right? God does, and he warns. He has us as people to tell people about the gospel, but their hearts are just so hardened. So God said, the oldest boy in each family of Egypt must die, but my people will be safe. God told his people to take their best lamb, to kill it, and to put some of its blood on their front doors. When God passed over your house, Moses explained, God will see the blood and know that the lamb died instead of you. So this right here, over here, the authors are already pointing to the children and to us, our children, that this lamb that they had to kill and put the blood over their door frames, would have reminded them, hey, this lamb had to die so that I didn't die, or that my oldest son didn't die. And that, again, what is it foretelling over here? Little by little dropping hints that there's going to be another lamb that's going to come, that's going to die, so that we wouldn't die, okay? I never saw this before. Well, I did see it, but not how she says it, because she's like, God will see the lamb, and that you will know the lamb died instead of you. That night, it was just as God had said. Suddenly, piercing the darkness, echoing down the corridors of the palace, came a blood-curdling scream. Pharaoh's oldest son had died. At last, Pharaoh did what God said. Get out, Pharaoh shouted. Just go. So God is always true to his word. So if he says, you don't do this, you don't let my people go, if you don't, etc., the worst is going to happen. And you know what? It came. Oh, I didn't show you the picture. So over here you have the door with the blood stained on the frame, and you have Pharaoh finally letting the people go. And so that very night, Moses and God's peoples fled out of Egypt and out of slavery. They were free at last. God's people will always remember this great rescue and call it the Passover. So if you know any Jewish friends, or if you're Jew yourself, this is the whole reason why you celebrate the Passover. But an even greater rescue was coming. Many years later, God was going to do it again. He was going to come down once more to rescue his people. But this time, God was going to set them free forever and ever. And the lamb was actually going to be God himself. So again, just foretelling, hey, yes, this is amazing. We freed you from Egypt. God freed you from Egypt. But guess what? Don't forget that this is just a small thing. Small little bite-sized sample of the huge thing that's going to happen later on, right? That God was going to come and be the lamb, the perfect lamb that was going to die instead of us to set us free, not just for a little bit, but forever, okay? So this is the Israelites finally leaving. This is Moses. And the Israelites finally fleeing from Egypt. All right, guys, so that's about it. That's the story. Tomorrow we're gonna do God Makes a Way. Again, it's just, if you don't know much about the Bible, this, and I mean, it's for kids, but hey, like, I'm reading it. If you don't know much about the Bible, this is great. And if you do, like, for example, like I that grew up in church, and for a while I knew all these stories, but I really didn't know the sequence of how it went and what did Moses come this and the Egypt and Joseph. This is great because it's all in order, right? So you kind of know which one goes before one and after the other. And in your mind, it kind of helps you bring all this picture together. And then after stepping back and seeing, wow, in each of these stories, you see the theme of this Messiah, this rescue that's gonna come, it's gonna free us. The ultimate rescue, right? The ultimate salvation. And obviously that brings glory to him, and it should strengthen our faith. So I know it's very simple and but the truths in these stories are so, so deep. So it's been a pleasure and a blessing to really go through them. So anyways, that's about it, guys. Hopefully we'll see you guys tomorrow, Lord willing. Let me know what you guys have been thinking about these stories. If you guys have the book, if you guys have been following along. And if that's been edifying to you guys, let me know. I want to hear from you, okay? All right, love you guys, and I will see you guys tomorrow, Lord willing. Bye. Hello friends, thank you so much for taking the time to watch my videos. It actually means the world to me that you guys actually take the time out of your busy day to watch my videos. I have a few messages for you guys. It won't take long at all, I promise. All right, so number one, I accept prayer requests. So if there's anything that you are going through, anything that you want prayer over, just go ahead and contact me either through a comment below, an email, private message, whatever way that you want. So I can add you to a prayer list that me and my family have, and we pray for every single day. We have seen the power of prayer in our lives, and we want to share that with you guys. All right, number two, if you are on Instagram, you should totally be following me. Why? Because I go live Monday through Friday, and I do a small devotional / Bible study, anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes, but it's just something that you guys can listen to throughout the day to get you connected to the Lord and to His Word. And lastly, number three, if you are not following me, totally subscribe, hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you can get notified every time I upload a new video. I would love for you to join our family. We have so much fun here. I do my best to upload twice a week, usually Tuesdays and Fridays, and I do videos about anything and everything. I do beauty, I do fashion, I do recipes, I do about my life, I do hauls, I do some of my favorite products. Honestly, a little bit of everything where my kids are involved, and it's just so much fun. So I would love for you to join our family if you want. All right, that's about it. Thank you so much. Love you, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.